Imagine biting into raw meat, roots so tough they crack your teeth, and berries you're not sure won't poison you. There's no grill, no fire, not even a warm bowl of soup. Just your hands, your instincts, and whatever you can find. This wasn't a fad diet. It was life for early humans. Before fire changed everything, our ancestors had to survive in a world where every bite could be a risk or a reward. So what did Stone Age people actually eat before they had fire? Let's take a step back, way back, and explore a world where food wasn't cooked, meals weren't planned, and survival depended on knowing what to chew and what to avoid. The answer will surprise you. In fact, the raw diet of our ancestors shaped not just our bodies, but our behavior, brains, and social lives. It's a story of grit, hunger, and evolution, served cold. And believe it or not, this untamed menu played a huge role in crafting the human experience. Our earliest food choices didn't just fill our stomachs. They sparked innovation, social bonding, and maybe even language itself. So before fire lit the night, food lit the way. To understand what Stone Age people ate before fire, we have to go back millions of years, long before agriculture, long before cooking, even before Homo sapiens. We're talking about Australopithecus, Homo habilis, and the early Homo erectus, who lived in the Paleolithic era. During this time, there was no controlled use of fire. The earliest possible evidence of fire use is from around 1.5 million years ago, and even then, it was sporadic. For hundreds of thousands of years, early humans lived entirely off raw, foraged, and scavenged food. So what was on the Stone Age menu? Mostly what nature handed them. Their diets were wide-ranging and depended on geography and season. In tropical regions, early humans likely consumed a lot of fruits, berries, nuts, and leafy greens. These were easier to find, and some provided quick energy. They also ate roots and tubers. Think wild versions of yams or carrots. But raw, many of these were fibrous, bitter, and difficult to digest. Our ancestors didn't care. They chewed for hours, using strong jaws and large molars. And then there was meat, but not how you think. Before hunting tools were advanced, early humans were primarily scavengers. They followed predator trails, waited for the leftovers, and used sharp stones to scrape meat from bones. Bone marrow, in particular, was a prized source of fat and nutrients. Eggs, insects, grubs, and small animals like lizards or birds were also part of their diet. Anything they could catch, crush, or dig up became food. And while we might gag at the idea of eating bugs, for early humans, insects were reliable, protein-rich, and everywhere. Early teeth tell the story, too. Fossil evidence shows wear patterns from hard seeds, gritty soil, and constant chewing. These weren't meals. They were challenges. Yet somehow, they survived. Their guts were more robust. Their microbiomes, adapted to raw and diverse diets, processed what ours couldn't today. And slowly, very slowly, this raw survival menu laid the groundwork for future evolution. Studies of modern foraging tribes, like the Hadza of Tanzania, offer clues. These groups rely heavily on uncooked tubers, honey, wild berries, and occasionally raw meat. The Hadza diet mirrors much of what our early ancestors consumed, and it shows us how a raw lifestyle can be sustainable under the right conditions. The fossilized stomach contents of Otzi the Iceman, who lived over 5,000 years ago, also revealed a diet of unprocessed plants and raw or dried meat. Though he lived long after fire use became common, his reliance on raw elements underscores how deep these dietary roots run. We also see evidence of varied diets in the dental calculus of ancient hominins. Traces of pollen, starch grains, and other microscopic particles trapped in ancient plaque that reveal a much wider variety of food sources than previously thought. Combined with archaeological finds of stone tools and digested plant remains, we can piece together a surprisingly diverse diet that was incredibly dependent on regional ecosystems. But how exactly did they digest all this? Without fire, digestion began with the mouth, literally. Early humans had powerful jaws and thick enamel-coated teeth to break down fibrous plants and raw meat. Their chewing time was significantly longer, sometimes several hours a day. This wasn't just about eating, it was about survival. Raw plant matter requires intensive chewing to break down cellulose. And raw meat, especially from wild animals, is tougher and more sinewy than anything we buy today. Saliva played a critical role. It began breaking down starches and helped soften food. But without fire, digestion was largely a gut-driven process. And that gut had to be strong. Early humans likely had larger digestive tracts, especially in the colon. This allowed for longer fermentation of plant materials, extracting every possible nutrient. Their microbiomes were diverse, packed with bacteria designed to process everything from fruit skins to insect shells. But digestion was just one challenge. Nutritional efficiency was another. Many raw foods are harder to digest completely. For example, raw starches are less bioavailable. That means early humans weren't getting all the calories out of what they ate. This may explain why they had to eat constantly. Food wasn't just about flavor or fullness, it was fuel, and often not enough of it. Their bodies adapted. Fat was stored quickly. Muscle was lean. They were constantly in motion, and their diets reflected that high-energy demand. Interestingly, there's evidence of food selection strategies. Some seeds and nuts were preferred not just for calories, but for ease of chewing or lower toxin levels. They learned through trial and error, sometimes deadly error, which foods to eat and which to avoid. And while they didn't cook, they did process. Crushing seeds with stones, fermenting fruit naturally, soaking roots to remove bitterness. These are all forms of primitive food preparation. Basic, but effective. Still, a raw diet came with risks. Parasites, food-borne bacteria, and toxins were common. But over generations, humans built immunity, adapted gut flora, and developed behaviors, like avoiding spoiled meat, that kept them alive. Some even speculate that fermentation and sun-drying were used more often than we assume. Drying meat in the sun, or letting fruit ferment, made food easier to chew and less toxic. Chewing time reduced. Nutrient absorption improved. The rhythm of the day was built around food, seeking, testing, chewing, digesting. Meals weren't moments, they were marathons. And this relentless cycle of searching and chewing may have helped our brains develop key problem-solving skills. Food wasn't just sustenance, it was stimulation. Eventually, these small innovations built the foundation for bigger leaps, like the mastery of fire. You'd think cooking was an obvious step forward, but here's the twist. The moment humans started cooking, our biology began to change. Before fire, our jaws were massive, our teeth were flat and strong, our guts were large, all because we had to process tough, raw food. But with the arrival of fire, food became easier to chew, digest, and absorb. As a result, human physiology started to shrink. Jaws got smaller, guts shortened, and brains grew. That's right, cooking may have fueled human brain development. Richard Wrangham, a biological anthropologist, proposed the cooking hypothesis. He argues that cooking was the pivotal change that allowed Homo erectus to evolve into Homo sapiens. By unlocking more calories from the same foods, we fueled bigger brains without needing bigger guts. This makes early raw diets both a marvel and a limit. On one hand, our ancestors adapted to eat what they had. On the other, that same adaptation set a ceiling until fire raised it. But here's the real contradiction. Modern humans couldn't survive long on a true pre-fire diet. Our teeth are smaller. Our guts are shorter. Our stomach acidity is lower. We're not built for it anymore. A diet of raw meat, unprocessed roots, and wild insects would leave most of us sick, weak, and exhausted. Yet, we owe everything to that diet. It was uncomfortable, risky, relentless, but it laid the foundation for every advancement to come. Some scientists believe even our social structures changed due to food preparation. Shared meals, division of gathering tasks, and cooperation around foraging may have paved the way for early language and culture. And perhaps that's the biggest irony of all. The struggle to find and eat raw food may have sparked the very things that define us: cooperation, communication, even creativity. The story of human evolution is inseparable from the story of food. And what we couldn't cook, we had to conquer in other ways, together. And one of the clearest windows into that world? A single prehistoric meal. Imagine a late afternoon 1.8 million years ago. A small group of Homo habilis moves through an East African grassland. The sun is low. They're hungry, but cautious. A pride of lions has recently finished eating nearby. Bones, scattered and cracked, dot the dry ground. The humans approach slowly. One carries a stone, flat on one side, sharp on the other. They watch for scavengers. Vultures circle above. Then they go to work. They scrape remaining flesh from ribs, break femurs with heavy rocks to get the marrow. The smell is strong, but they eat quickly. This is their best chance for fat today. Later, they forage. One finds a tree with small figs, some ripe, some not. Another digs into a soft patch of earth, pulling up stringy, bitter roots. They chew, spit, chew again. The roots are fibrous and hard, but it's food. Nearby, a child finds a nest with eggs. Another plucks beetles from underbark. By the end of the day, their meal has included raw meat scraps, bone marrow, wild figs, bitter roots, a few bugs, and eggs. No fire, no plates, just hands, stones, and survival. They spend the night huddled together under low branches. Hunger doesn't disappear. It fades with exhaustion. Their stomachs churn with raw material. They will survive, and that's enough. It's a diet built from necessity, not choice. The next morning, they move again. The cycle repeats. What they remember from yesterday, where the trees were, which roots didn't sicken them, becomes the foundation of tomorrow's wisdom. And as these stories are shared, passed on, repeated, and refined, they form the earliest beginnings of human culture. A culture built on food. So why should we care what early humans ate before fire? Because their diet tells us something critical. Not just about where we came from, but what we're built for. Our bodies evolved through scarcity, not abundance. High fiber, raw nutrition, periods of fasting, constant movement. Today's world is the opposite. Processed, constant, convenient. And that mismatch leads to health problems. That's why modern trends like the paleo diet, intermittent fasting, and ancestral eating have gained traction. They're not perfect imitations, but they aim to recapture some of the balance. Even science is looking backward. Studies on gut microbiomes often start with what foragers still eat today: unrefined, seasonal, diverse foods. We don't need to eat grubs and marrow to be healthy, but we can learn from them. Variety matters. Fiber matters. Eating with the seasons and moving after meals, all rooted in pre-fire life. And more than that, their story reminds us of resilience. The fact that we are here at all, thinking about diet and nutrition, is a result of millions of years of hard, raw living. They didn't have recipes. They had instincts. And those instincts? They're still in you. Understanding their food habits helps us better appreciate the complexity of human health. It also shows us that survival isn't about luxury. It's about adaptability. And sometimes, looking back is the best way to move forward. That means not just eating differently, but thinking differently. Being mindful of the food journey, the source, and the history. Every bite is connected to a bigger story. Even our rituals around food, family meals, shared traditions, comfort eating, are echoes of that ancient connection between nourishment and community. Before fire, there were no chefs, just survivors. Their menu was raw, risky, and real. But every tough root, every scavenged bone, every bitter berry helped carve the human path. They lived on what they could find, what they could chew, what didn't kill them. And through that, they adapted, evolved, and one day reached for the spark that would change everything. So next time you cook a meal, pause for a second. Before all this comfort, there was chaos. And someone, somewhere, once ate a beetle so you could have breakfast. That's the power of food. It's not just about flavor. It's about history. It's about survival. And it's about the long, winding road from hunger to humanity. From the shadows of ancient forests to the plains of early Africa, the echo of those meals still rings in our DNA. And they're not just stories. They're blueprints. They remind us who we are, where we came from, and what it took to make it this far. Enjoy this journey into the raw beginnings of our species. Leave a comment about the wildest thing you try eating if you lived in the Stone Age. And if you want more stories about the roots of human survival, hit that subscribe button. There's more where this came from.